glad to see you guys out here. I was afraid everybody, we've had such horrible weather that it would scare everyone away. So I'm glad to see some brave souls are here and in support of poetry. I'm very happy to welcome you to the Poetry Center at Passaic County Community College, and to say that all our programs are made possible by a grant from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, and private contributions from individual people who become donors to the center, and also to Passaic County Community College, and to our very forward-looking president, Dr. Steve Rose, who has been very supportive of the Poetry Center, the art galleries, all the programs that we do as part of the cultural programming here at the college. So none of that would be possible without the support of Dr. Rose. Certainly we wouldn't be in this beautiful building without him. We wouldn't have any typewriters or any computers or phones or any of the rest of it. We'd all have to be sitting on the floor. So I'm very grateful to Steve Rose for everything he's done to support our program. And of course also very grateful to the individual members and donors to the Poetry Center. That's been a very important part of what we do and what we try to do for poetry, and the Book Awards and all the rest of it. None of it would be possible without that. Also want to remind you that the Allen Ginsberg Awards are open, and that the deadline on the Allen Ginsberg Awards is April 1st. So get your entries together for the Ginsberg Awards, and also if you have a new book, the Paterson Poetry Prize Book Awards are open, and the Paterson Fiction Prize books are open for, the prize is open for submission as well, and the books for young people. Anyway, today I just want to say that Eileen Myles is one of our readers today, and Eileen has to be in New York by 4 o'clock, so she's going to have to leave early, and she just wanted me to explain that she has to make it to Greenwich Village by 4 o'clock to teach a workshop this afternoon. Nothing like teaching 2 workshops and doing your reading on the same day. And so that she wanted you to know that. If you want her to sign the book, you might slip her the book.
Now or right after the reading, I'd love to. Or during the reading, it'll be kind of great.
not during the reading, it's a little confusing. Anyway, Eileen Myles was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm not going to say when you were born, okay?
I don't mind. I don't mind.
You look very young. Was born in 1949, was educated in Catholic schools, graduated from the University of Massachusetts, Boston in 1971, and moved to New York City in '74 to be a poet. She gave her first reading at CBGB's and then gravitated to St. Mark's Church, where she studied with Ted Berrigan, Alice Notley, and Bill Zavodsky. She has published 18 books of poetry and fiction, including Not Me, Chelsea Girls, Cool for You, and Skies. Recent books include Sorry Trees, The Importance of Being Iceland, Travel Essays in Art, Inferno, a Poet's Novel, Snowflake, Different Streets. Her new and selected poems, I Must Be Living Twice, will be published in 2015. She's a Guggenheim Fellow, and in 2014, she received a grant from the Foundation for Contemporary Art. Let's welcome Eileen Myles.
Hi, you guys. Thank you for being in my workshop, and thank you for not being in my workshop. And thanks so much for inviting me. It's really great to be here, and for reading with me in our strange way of reading together today. I love Maureen and love her work, so spiritually I would be here all day. And it's a snowstorm, because I do a workshop in St. Mark's, and it got removed to today. It was the only day that everybody in the workshop could do it, so my apologies. It's really fun. I've never been in Paterson before, so it's exciting to be here. Great. I'm gonna read some few slightly older poems from this book, and truly, I think it would be kind of great if you just stop me while I'm reading and can hand me a book and I'll sign it for you if you like. If anybody feels like driving to New York, I'm there. I'm on the road with you. So this book, it's called Snowflake Different Streets, because it's sort of like two, and it does that thing where one is upside down, so they kind of meet in the middle. And it really was that I was writing poems in California, and then I came back to New York, and I was writing poems in New York, and they just seemed like that section thing that we do in books of poetry was not going to work. And I sort of like the idea of really making them sort of hit each other like that. And I sort of took I have a sculptor friend, a guy named Oscar Tuazone, and he talks about putting sculptures in buildings that would almost take down the building, and then the second part of this sculpture is to then support the building, you know? And so he said he felt like it was like the sculpture was like fucking the building. And I thought, oh, I want one of my books to fuck the other one, you know? And so that's what I did with this book. So, but it's confusing when you're reading from it, you keep going like this. I feel like a magician or something. See, I'm always on the wrong side, it's true. So this is called About Mary. I feel infinity seeing a band of white flesh against your dark blue shirt in the night. Later when you turned the AC on because it was hot, it made it quieter. Then a little bit of fat helps you sleep. I thought eating my yogurt staged the room for the photographer, and now I'm in it. You have anything crusty like your poem about dancing all night in the 80s? I never danced all night in the 80s. It was stories and you never recorded, admit it. I'm not in that movie. Case closed. Maybe they were richer, worked better, were men, or something like that. I'm not done with you yet, playing with your bib, no, apron. In the store when you changed your mind, I thought you had taken mine into account. Change it back. Which mind was that? A system isn't so much closed as sinister, no, I mean conceptual. A dog gets the wrong idea from repeated indulgence. I don't need to pay $45 an hour to know that I know it. You prefer a friendship with her, that's not wit. My words are big and wide. Twice in the same week, I considered it my big mistake. You've got to be brave, or a better word for not knowing what's to come, adjusting to that moment, or all of them. I refuse to do any more. She wrote it so young, and she had a funny accent. I will never again illustrate my widening point with a detail from your ex's Facebook photos. I will stop it here by saying I'm sorry and crossing it all out. S as a mustache. If I fear I'm a failure, say no, be enormous. I was, I am. If it's not for some incredible future, everyone's and not your kids, because they're yours, especially if I borrow them once in a while. As many rounds of this as I can take. If I put more space around each night or day, or just everything, minute other things. Chairs, I move chairs around to make it roomier. The words kept moving around, and not in the terminal, but in the home. It ate all night. I remember you in Ireland. I thought you had it. Everybody had. The amazing stories about translators that they speak across peoples, all of them. I said, I am recommending this as the most fun I ever. To animate the way another saw headlights or sound, to see a pattern and enter their body. I'm the galvanizing. I'm the animating kind. I'm the monster. I shall cry till the end of my life. This poem was like, it was like the first fight I had with somebody I was in love with, and it was just like going at her in my head. And this is sort of a friend of that poem, and it's called Smile. And I was a little bit obsessed with that Charlie Chaplin song, and it just was running through it, though it's not in the poem at all, but also I was reading Mary Shelley. I read Frankenstein a few years ago. I mean, and I thought this is an amazing book. It's just not as much fun without a good light and a sharp knife. I mean, leaning into the peach of it. People find the time or get theirs sharpened or use yours. That drip in the kitchen is like someone I know. Today's cold is like an affirmation of the purchase of yesterday's new shirt. I knew the cold would come sometime, but today, I'm wearing that drip most of all. My half-made meal and even the space that surrounds the incredible possibility of hunger on and on like my favorite man, Frankenstein. The drip has tones, a relationship with the holding bowl that is only holding water. All these rhymes all the time. I used to think Mark Wahlberg was family. So was Tim, but close to his death he told me that he was adopted. Every time he smiled, he thought, Eileen's a fool. Or that's what love looks like. If I woke and my master was horrified, I would go out into the world with this enormous hurt, and I have carried mine for so long, I now know it's nothing special. It's just the fall and the sound of her sirens. It's the agony of being human. Not a dog who dies maybe 6 times in the lives of her masters. Everyone's phony and made up. Everyone's a monster like me. Now I know everyone. Oh, I think, this is a very East Coast poem. Where's it? I was in California, and I would have East Coast feelings all the time, and I'd write poems about them, and nobody in California would get them. So this is called No California. The only time I may have had a kid was at 19, and if that kid also had a kid at 19, then at 38 I'd be a grandmother. And if that kid, next year, also had a kid, I'd be a great-grandmother. It's late, so I want to call someone in California, but I'm there. Nobody in California laughs when I read. They don't get it. They don't understand. Dude. And this one's called My Box, which is weird. It was like at the time I was involved with somebody who was younger than me, and so she still used Tampax. And they would sit on the windowsill, and I would just look at how the design of Tampax had changed, you know. It's like, I don't even know that box, you know. In terms of design, one box is colored orange. The one you want it always is, and sits in the bathroom of anyone's house because that's what she wants. It's choosing that wakes things up. I wondered how long all that I needed and encountered here would come like a wave. Not the shake, but the after effects. And this box did say there was a way to see this thing alone. July called it calculus. What is comes in boxes. What is not comes in waves. The dots between. Mountains surround us, and I say, they are more marvelous than the sea, way overhead. I like flying over them too, thinking that is home, these crazy bumps. When we drive into them tomorrow, it won't be bam. It means up swirling on the edge of the cup, and if you don't watch me like a hawk, I won't be scared. I want to be loved like a sunbeam. That is, it comes across the room or the ocean. You know the way I drive. I want to lift your fear like a bonnet and kiss your living face. Here, this is mine. Don't misunderstand me. I come from a totally my dad was an alcoholic, and when he was drunk, what he would always say, I mean, like over and over, was don't misunderstand me. And I think that's so funny about being a poet is I feel like you use all this language in your poems that only your family would really understand, and yet they never hear them. So it's kind of like, I feel like I'm kind of in this, I mean, you know, I'm in conversation with many people, but my family is a big piece of who those people are, and it's so weird that they don't get the poetry, the miles that is being written. This one's called Evolution. I'll read some new poems. Something unearthly. I feel like I'm going so fast. I had so much coffee today, and my poems are slow. At least these poems are slow. Something unearthly about today. So I buy a Diet Coke and a newspaper, a version of me, something about me on the earth and its sneakers, feeling like the earth's furniture. But that can't be true, or like the Coke and the Times. It's true for a little while. I'm not the earth's furniture, not entirely, and I seem to want to go about this in the entirely wrong way. My face asked the man at the deli, "Do you know me?" And he clearly didn't answer me enough. "I'll get this," I say, picking up the paper, hoping that he might just know me a little bit more, but not enough to make me feel absolutely true. I'm just not true enough, so it's probably the weather, an overripe September. We're agreeing that winter will probably be pretty cold. That feels good and true, I thought, talking to Jill, who was my trainer. She shows me what to do, and I feel a little better after that, and I thought, I don't want to be like that poet. I thought he's just like a prisoner of the planet, and that's what's sad about him. I could say, unlike me, who is like a temporary chair, but I'm actually what's on the chair. I'm using this pen on a purple notebook set up on the angle of my thighs. My thighs. I've had you since I was a kid. I've known you for so long. Even when you betrayed me in the bathtub one night when you were rabbits. But that's because I was going crazy. Is it crazy to be the citizen who's only partially here? Like kissing while your eyes are anxiously surveying the room, kissing at a party that there's nobody there but this person with not so many characteristics, and she will list them so she can continue writing. That's what I like about this act, the sea of blood and consciousness and barely repressed craziness that's singing in my ears, only likes one thing, always like her favorite food. The gulls in my head can do whatever they want, and I can't ever use the wrong word at the right time. And this is when the earth only wants me this way, ignoring the seagulls in writing. I could stop here, because the Coke is so good I want to go further, longer. Where should I go? My foot scrapes against a book, wondering. Today I discovered that to talk about certain things makes me sad, so I'll stop. There. My arm rests on a pillow that feels pretty good. I cherish this time alone. When I go out, I think, why am I here? I'd like to change the very characters I'm writing in. If I could stop thinking about, if you know me, what else could I do? I could go to the movies, but afterwards it would be me talking about what was so obviously wrong. And now I'm picking the wrong words, so I've gone on too long, and the gulls came back, and the truck outside. I know the loneliness of love and the loneliness of being outside and looking out the window when love is gone, but this face that turns and listens in my home and wonders if you know me is lost and will never be found. And something new starts up in my building, a different sound. This one's called Male Pregnancy. While Rachel's reading, I begin to fill in the white shapes on the front of my composition notebook. As the ink filled the shape, I felt the seahorse forcing the ink, the ecstasy, and I began to write. And this is a Hurricane Sandy poem. Our happiness was when the lights were out, the whole city in darkness, and we drove north to our friend's yellow apartment where she had power and we could work. Later we stayed in the darkened apartment, you sick in bed and me writing ambitiously by candlelight in thin blue books. Your neighbor had a generator, and after a while we had a little bit of light. I walked the dog and you were still a little bit sick. We sat on a stoop one day in the late afternoon. We had very little money, enough for a strong cappuccino, which we shared sitting there, and suddenly the city was lit. Remember, the weirdest part about Sandy and the city was that the ATMs weren't working. So if you didn't have cash, you didn't have money. It was just like, that was it. Or you could go uptown, but it was like, to go 36 blocks was hard. So this one's called El Diablito. And that's the name of a taco restaurant. It's not that new, but it's new-ish on my blog. And I keep going in there and writing poems, and the thing that's so weird is that they keep having devils in them because, you know, and so it's just, it changes every time. And this time I had no, this time I was writing it on my phone because I had no pen. And I was heading to read, I don't know why I tell you, I was heading to read it at KGB. I let you wisp in here a little. Yeah, that's nice. Lights flashing, music thumping. I'm heading to do a reading, of course. The cute waitress delivers the guy's food, and I'm afraid she caught me making eating faces, chewing seriously, saying goodbye to Thich Nhat Hanh. How many people always think about him when they are chewing? There's hardly anything on the planet that isn't improved by a little lime, happy squeeze. This sailor will never get scurvy. I wonder if she feels different when she serves him. Today at the gym, this woman said, "You always look so cute." One of the few times I ever looked at my ex's Twitter feed, someone had told her she had beautiful hair. I thought, gross, what a narcissist. Well, it's not like I said someone at the gym said I always look cute on social media. No one may ever read this. Maybe some archivist at Yale will wind up with my phone and lean over to another graduate student. Look, someone at the gym told her she always looked cute. Covers his mouth laughing. Maybe I'll lose this phone. Narcissistic little thought, you will not die alone. I'll read you tonight at KGB. If you want to seem like a star in a reading, read a poem that is clear you wrote like 10 seconds ago. Wow, that's professional poet. Paradise, which I never know how to spell. It's with me always. August 23rd. Eternity of yard sales, then I pass a road named Old Revolutions, estate sale, to think, and I pull out orange diamond advising me, embroidery, cock-a-doodle-doo, oh come on. I want to get a house and a dog and a knot rifle, take home loans for myself for a mountain beard. You click to know me, truck. Turkeys pass, woods foam when it rains. Tom, and now it's beeping again. Can you fix it? Still beeping on Wednesday, I can. And no one tell the mountain, crows again. Count shirts and shorts and the dark clouds coming in. Will I always confuse a moment in my life for the rest of my life when truly it was fun? In my workshop, I was talking about making lists and stuff, and I feel like poems are collections of things. And the thing that's part of the reason I think writers like to move around is that it changes your list. You know, because that was like, I spent a month at McDowell last summer, so I was like, country poems, you know, which was like great. Okay, this is very city, this one. It's called The City for Stephen Boyer. And Stephen was the guy that, when Occupy was downtown, there was a big library, and Stephen was the librarian at Occupy. And then the city came and just a big dumpster and took all those books and threw them away. It was horrible. The city is juicy and bloody at night, stabbing my eyes in orange. Oh, I have a new dog, and she's orange, so she's running through all my poems. Stabbing my eyes, an orange dog walking through a town of dead leaves, or the green stripe of chicken smell. Off, on. Occupy invented the city at night. All its empty wares are everywhere now. Now is a wide cement path. I love when she performs that orange stripe madly again and again in the house. She likes inside her cage, and she likes out. There is water everywhere when the bottom drops out. Oh, Mel, you are my love. My loneliness, an illustrious path, a screen. I shoot these themes. I mean my jism, that look on your face is covered with my thought. I might stop for a long while now. Then again, I may not. This is the big machine, and we are in it. Occupy ruined everything. The city is gone. The meat trucks cry. In this chalice, in this cherished empty bell, capitalism gnawing on its bone, its bloody, blazing, empty bone, its porny plastic bone, and no one's home. I scrawl on your wall, your how many buildings paid for with skulls. The girls who were stolen and married, spent. The boys who were burned, they are living in your rooms. Your clothes, asshole, are theirs. I always think of that, like, what do we do with the news, you know? I mean, I feel like the city has to be something, like, every bad thing that ever happened seems to just go away, and the city just keeps marching on, getting richer. And I feel like it's the monster that ate the news. This is called Sylvia. Later, the whole generosity of dogs in the silver sun, my loneliness like a sash, that boat in the distance, triangle heart, sylph with a beard got wet and gleaming black, what I like about you. Go deeper now into the present, out there with the kid on the swing. Everybody sit there, doesn't mean I'll be here when I am. Kids out there, what is divinity? Turns out something really large is on the swing. Also, I feel like I'm writing to God. I like that idea. There's this girl named Hannah who sent me, I think there was a benefit someplace, I think in Tucson, and they were auctioning off all these different things, and one of the things that got auctioned off was me critiquing your manuscript, and so then they had a bid for it, and so this girl named Hannah won it, and then, you know, for months, Hannah and I were emailing, and I'm like, can I do it next month? You know, and she's like, it's fine, I don't want to, you know, and so finally I did it, but it was like, there was no heat, it was like really cold, and there was no heat in my building, and I was freezing, and I'm reading her manuscript in front of a, you know, on a little space heater, and Hannah's. I'm so cold, I'd like to burn my hair, asleep in front of the space heater, the faucet dripping like that while I'm feeling this way. Stop reading Hannah's manuscript. If I'm going to die, dream of it, be writing a poem, not reading one. But you gave me this too, Hannah, my death. Okay, I think this is the last one. It's a little bit gross, but I think I go there readily. Sharing fall. I lost my loss in a collective of loss. I could reach in and grab a fist of them, saving them from the rain. My mouth is red for every child who has starved, eating the corpse of their father or mother. My corpse is spaghetti, sharing birthdays with a famous clown. I have the same birthday as Ellsworth Kelly. Sharing birthdays with a famous clown, a famous blind man, John Milton, and a famous actor, Kirk Douglas. Those names are not in this poem. This cool makes me want to divulge, go on exposing my hunger, which is the only story I know. 10 bliss, filling the air and every air, my only love, a watch and a dead one, to be renewed by an ugly face and what I love in a box, shoved up on a shelf. And I wonder when I'll take her down and abuse her again, or disabuse her of her stupid notions about herself. Silly little filly, racing around and around. My dog hates my farts. Should I fart here? If the place is too gross, I tell my neighbor not to call me Mommy, and he's not my neighbor anymore. I only work in his world, so I sit with dogs, so it's clear when we wag our tails, we do not work at all. I've only been getting to know you better. This is a really interesting word. It's a Spanish word, which is resquachismo, which means a tendency in Mexican neighborhoods to make their row houses look really special and change the ordinary into something private and excited. Because I think there's a thing about on the border, developments on the American side of the border don't decorate, and developments on the Mexican side always decorate. So I've only been getting to know you better. My resquachismo only. I'm putting back from that border. I let the yellow handles of your genius, your sunny front, against all insult, your sunny golden leaves, half a can. I can't remember what I said. This is a translation of weather. How is it in Baltimore today? I couldn't even get there without removing another city. The device warned me, don't remove all of them. I removed all of them, and all these cities are gone. Thank you. Thank you, Paterson.
Okay, let's give another round of applause to Eileen Myles. And let's welcome Maureen Seaton. Maureen Seaton has written 16 poetry collections, both solo and collaborative. Most recently, Fibonacci Batman, new and selected poems from Carnegie Mellon University Press in 2013. Her awards include the Iowa Poetry Prize and the Lambda Literary Award for Furious Cooking, the Publishing Triangle's Audrey Lorde Award for Venus Examines Her Breast, the 8th Mountain Poetry Prize for Fear of Subways, the Society of Midland Authors Award for The Sea Among the Cupboards, and NEA Fellowship. Her work has been honored in both the Push Park Prize and Best American Poetry. And memoir, Sex Talks to Girls, also won a Lammy. She is currently Professor of English and Creative Writing at the University of Miami, Coral Gables, Florida. And I want to say about Maureen that I met her many years ago because Jennifer, my daughter, and I used several of her poems in our book, Identity Lessons, but also because we shared a friend, Ruth Lisa Schechter, who was the editor of the Quote Review, and it was very important to me in terms of helping me to take more risks in my poems. And I try to pass that on, and I never talk about poetry without mentioning Ruth Lisa Schechter. And I think Maureen might feel somewhat the same way. Anyway, I'm glad to welcome Maureen to Paterson. Let's give a round of applause for Maureen.
She's having fun wherever she is. And thank you to all of you, and especially those who were in my workshop, who I got to know a little bit today and really enjoyed working with. I got teary at the end, which, you know, it's not that unusual for me, but kind of, in a workshop of people I never met before. So, thank you all. Good to be here. I'm sorry that Eileen had to leave because, well, for a million reasons, but mostly because we have so many images and references and themes throughout our work that are the same. And what are the chances of going to a reading on a Saturday afternoon and hearing both poets mention Frankenstein? And what are the chances? Pretty slim, I would imagine. And that's not the only thing you're going to hear again. There are quite a few little things. I don't know if you'll pick up on all of them, but I was like, Eileen, stay! I want you to hear my Frankenstein poem. Anyway, and the one that I'm starting with, too, is not a Frankenstein poem, but you'll see the similarity. So I am very happy to be here. Thank you so much. And I haven't been in Paterson before either, even though I was born in Elizabeth. But I know a lot about Paterson because I read the book, and I hope that you will too, by Gillan. It's very cool. Talk about collage. And this is the one I'm going to start with. In my family, we are mostly drunks. This is as cliche as moving to Chicago and everyone you know back home says, "How's the Windy City?" Or quarts of Bud and the New York Yankees, or August at the Jersey Shore. We all started out quirky in one way or another. Uncles closing the bar at 3 a.m., opening the church at 6, aunts taking to their beds, virgins everywhere. A favorite story is the one about the sibling we mummy wrapped for the Halloween parade at Edgemere Park. She was 5 or 6 and she looked really fabulous. Self-absorbed and morbid. A true ghoul. Still, she lost. Not even an honorable mention. Would not stop circling that baseball field. The judges finally went home, the best, scariest, ugliest, most demented. But that child walked around and around, stuck as a stick in a candy apple, until her big sister sat down on home plate and wept. In addition to maudlin, we were all reputed to be quite wild. Mrs. O'Shea refused to let Kate go with me to the straw hat, but Kate was the one who got felt up in cars, not me. I just loved to dance. The wildness was something else, not the contagious kind, something inside, more like swinging out over the highway on a homemade rope, or robbing houses in the neighborhood for no good reason, praying not to wake up and then drinking enough to be truly blessed. 2 sisters ate sleeping pills at different times. A brother was invited unceremoniously out of the service. We all flunked school. Then we straightened out. Not really. It makes me think about genetics, what they do with families like mine, motorize us or colorize us, or strain the bejesus right out of us. Stiff and brawly, all the daughters named some form of Mary, sons refusing to follow in the old man's steps. Would the world miss us? Would we trade our lives for ones of clone-shaped sanity? These are questions my family would never consider. These are questions that stray from the sorrow of all those parish events where we went seeking kingdoms and found boredom, where we waited for someone to come along and lift us from earth, but every time we looked in the eye of the Savior, we saw ourselves, the line ahead of us, the line behind us, reaching into a dozen different infinities. Everyone empty as the spaces in our DNA, where decisions fall and empires cast lots for the sculpting of a soul. This little book just went out of print, like yesterday or something. The publisher folded. So if anybody wants one, I just got a zillion of them, but they're being delivered to Colorado, where I'm living right now. But if anybody wants one, email me your name and address. I'll send you one for free. I just have a whole bunch of them. It's a pretty big book. Let me see. That happens to books, so it's not real sad. It's just slightly sad. This poem is called The Bus of God, and there are a lot of layers to this piece, and it's kind of fast reading, so I'm going to do my best, but I've got like a little bit of a cough. I have cough drops in my pocket. If it gets too bad, I'll take one. But it performs on a couple of levels. One is it's a tribute to a group like it's a quartet of musicians, crazy musicians in Albuquerque, New Mexico, called Le Chat Lunatique. They're really funny and they're really good musicians. And so it's a tribute to them. The Bus of God is one of their songs that they wrote. And then the other layer is, it's a little bit of an answer to my partner who wanted to know, now that marriage is legal for everybody in many states, could we now get married legally? And anyway, we have different feelings about that. So this is my long answer to the question. The Bus of God. Usually, never, I'm traveling on the Bus of God with a whole band of violinists or crazy bass players, 5-string, who all kiss me before I can put up my spit guard. They're so tuneful and skinny, those musicians. Such small teeth. And pregnant all the time, like mermaids. Kiss yourself, go on. I'll watch until you're all kissed out, and then I'll imagine I'm one of those mermaids, cutting fettuccine into boiling broth while tuning out soulfully. Dear God, the cellos are swallowing butterflies. They're crazy in lower registers, right? Feet and crotch and molar. Or graphic, like the ones with or without photographs of Superman. Oh, I can't feel my ears. I wondered what bruise got stuck in there like a 5-pointed star. I'm in the Sugar League, you know, a confection of wavy particles and a commitment to the same old physics. I sleep carefully, a nun named Joseph banging on the door of my cell or radio. I can't predict, can you, the simultaneity of waves pretending to walk backwards through the sea that sleeps between here and the Sargasso? Why don't you take a picture, why don't you? I'm blistering beneath this sugared sun, all crisp and candy. I'm supposedly cell deep in evolution, but every time I grow a hair, I bruise, far. I'm not a big fan of the way we all spelled Mississippi, as if it was the only childhood river. Like, what was wrong with Chattahoochee? All those blues and other vowels. And I like to think of our presidents as rivers, and our ex-presidents as stones. But you won't catch me ever wanting to be one. Whenever I see a river, I think of all the presidents who stood beside it and threw stones sideways, skip and sink. Delaware, Mississippi, bloodstreams, rivulets. All the water in Florida is blue. All the water in Maryland is gray. Some of the water, one, in New Mexico, is brown. I like to walk on it. Pretty soon I'll stitch myself to you. Accost me, go ahead. I dare you to spare me just a little of your frequently flying female. Wag on, my sweet, go commando if you can't afford a hat. I've got nothing against not going and taking off as if sleds and geese and wagons could all get me to my dumb destination. A Ford, by any other name, is a Chevy, costing about the same as a stunned or sequined mail carrier. What? What? Are we ever going to make sense of these tires of which this is a spare? I've never had the kind of family that sucks fruit or fingers, you know, the kind that drinks gardenias. If you tell me Blythe Downer's a water sign, I could make you a pool to look at yourself in. I can't seem to find the antidote to the fruity, what do you call them, fractals, that open up to reveal a stunning woman in boxers drinking rosary beads. Or else that's an eel soaked in the repetition of lemon juice. What bath are we talking about? I'm still kind of sober and looking for drinks that taste like Christ. You call yourself a diorama? Still, I could pretend I'm blue, that like a blurted orgasm, name myself a heteronym that rhymes with power, or check again when she's dead and out of lucky pennies, my sweet nasally girl, my little tiny petite 432, my sugar lump. Mine, mine, mine. Sometimes I am so baffled I can only, it's not my fault, read. Or is she also, alas, anon, a leery, loud, and lucky persimmon of purse string theory? Why is everything red when you want it to be more subduedish, a little more like the whispered, cagey name of an aging cooker, not a screamer, more a hanger-on like a sheep inside a box or a woman inside a gold mine? You are a fault line, a scarab, a drool. I am your figure of speech, O lynch mob, O fat face. You are my spinal tapper, my scrunchy pearls. I am your, let's face it, boomerang. And you have earned me, learned me, burned, okay me. And now all I can think of is, what kind of gem should I serve at a breakfast of meaningful clergy? I could hope for the same sundial you poked inside me during the membership drive, or I could rely on Einstein or Frankenstein and simply marry you. Thank you. So I said, no, I did not want to get legally married. It was a big risk to take in a relationship. But a commitment ceremony that isn't legal was just as good in my opinion, don't you think? Hello? I need your support. Sally Field. If I could be any actor, it would be Sally Field. If I could sleep with any actor, it would be Queen Latifah. Field reminds me a little of me if I weren't so phobic about flying. Latifah, you might say, has become a famous femme in recent years, if you judge by the makeup and the glossy magazine spreads. Still, the way she rapped in the old days, in that Set It Off scene, the thing I like about Field is her seamless approach to her life and work. Plus, she's a mom, and she says sensible things. I like that she loved two men in Norma Ray. I've had trouble myself loving just one person over the years. I could easily have 3 lovers at a time, like a Mormon or a beach cat. Queen Latifah reminds me of the night one of my lovers dressed up as a femme fatale and sang me a torch song. Not all butches can do that. Some look like drag queens when they put on femme clothes. Even with the construction hat and steel-toed boots, I femme myself out. That's where Sally Field and I have something else in common. Cowboy boots just make us look cuter. That's what I used to do. Okay, so that was published. I mean, no longer published. So I was born in Elizabeth. Yay, Elizabeth. I only lived there a few years, and this is what happened. I'll read this one first. This is why we moved from Elizabeth, and it was early on, so I don't have a lot of memories, and my main memories of Elizabeth are going back and forth on the turnpike between New York and Elizabeth. So I have a lot of New Jersey Turnpike poems. It's really weird, but I see some heads nodding, so. Anyway, I don't have to go into that. I also don't like to fly, and it is because of a phobia. It's not because I don't like airports. I have no idea what they do in airports anymore. I haven't flown in 37 years. Before that, I flew everywhere. And the way that I did it was to use drugs and alcohol. So when that stopped in 1976, I did it one more time, and then I was like, I don't think I'm ever doing this again, thank you very much, and I haven't. So you have to be a teacher, so you have long periods of time off, and you have to love to drive, which I do, and so I drive everywhere, like a crazy person, but I love it. So this poem is actually based on a true story. It's kind of why I think I have a fear of flying. You know, you do try after a number of false, trying to get on a plane and running crazy back to the airport. Your therapist tries to help you get on planes and stuff like that. And this is what I came up with, and I don't know if it's true. It hasn't helped me get on a plane, so maybe it's not. But it's in honor of my grandfather, Frank Seaton, who was a huge champion bowler in Elizabeth. And he died, he lived from 1900 to 1952. It's in his memory, and it's called Fear of Bowling. Suddenly out of luck, 3 planes crashed in Elizabeth, New Jersey. This is true. This is totally true. where children played in an orphanage yard. Their little coats hung in the trees like fuselage. December 16, 1951, the first plane plunged into the Elizabeth River shortly after takeoff. 56 died. "You can fly toward heaven in your zoot suit," said the champ. January 22nd, 1952, a second crash occurred in the city of Elizabeth. 30 died, including 7 on the ground. "Watch out," he said, "that hook'll kill you." February 11th, 1952, a third crash. 33 died, including 3 Elizabeth residents asleep in bed. He said, "Stance is everything, Lizzie Tish. Count to 5, then throw." Newark Airport closed for 6 months in 1952. My grandfather died, and my father moved us all to New York. I grew up with a mighty hook and a healthy fear of bowling. What I remember is sketchy: a swing set, trees, a merry-go-round, the kind that gathers centrifugal force until the children fly away. And one more for my grandfather. Thank you. Whose name was Frank, but his christened name was Francis. My grandmother's name was also Francis, so of course I played around with that. If I had been the firstborn child, I probably would have been Francis in some way. This is called the Elizabeth Lanes, Elizabeth, New Jersey, circa 1920. "Marry me, Francis. I will marry you, Francis. Will you marry me, Francis? I will marry you, Francis. Francis, will you marry me? I will marry you, Francis. Will you marry me soon, Francis? I will marry you soon, Francis. How soon, Francis? I will marry you very soon, Francis. Will you have my child, Francis? I will have your child, Francis. You will marry me soon, Francis, and you will have my child? Yes, Francis, I will marry you soon, and I will have your child, and we will name him Francis." Yeah, sure, that's my dad. I have a lot of poems about my childhood in Jersey. Believe it or not, it just comes up, even though I was only here a few years. But I'm not going to read any more of them today. Maybe there's a couple of references here and there, but actually there is one coming up. It seems to pop up, and what pops up for me mostly is the Budweiser sign on the New Jersey Turnpike. Is it still there? It is still there? Thank God. I'm so glad, because it lives on in my memory in such an important way. I don't know, just as a kid noticing it. And then, of course, the smell going through Secaucus, and that lives on too. Is that still there too?
No. Pig farm?
Yeah, the big barns.
No more bad smells in Secaucus.
Oh, that's good. That's good for Secaucus.
Malls in Secaucus.
What is?
There's malls.
There's malls in Secaucus.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll take the pig farms. Thank you very much. So after growing up, then I think Eileen mentioned something about writers going to different places and discovering new lists for themselves. And I've traveled a lot too, and I've lived in a lot of places, not as many people, but whenever I go somewhere, I constantly, even though I left New York City of my own will, no one made me go in the early 90s, I still would go somewhere, move somewhere, and then immediately begin to critique it. No matter where I was, it would be like, oh, they do this, or oh, they're that way, and oh, look at that, and look at, and then I would write poems from it. And so now I've been doing this for a number of years in different places, and I'm like, what am I? What a horrible person I am. Why am I doing this? I don't know. I was just thinking today, I really don't know why I do it, except that when I go somewhere new, I immediately begin to critique it. And I kind of have to think about that. I don't know what that is. But even Boulder, where I am now, which I adore, I'm finding stuff wrong with it, so I can write poems about it. What is that? Anyway. So this one was Chicago, and I found a lot wrong about Chicago. And this is my first place, out of New York, and I missed New York so much I couldn't almost bear it. It was unbearable, really. So you'll see. This one's called Whining Prairie. I don't want to die in this wild onion, smelly belly mire of the Midwest, stinking marsh, this drenchy, swaly swamp, but I might. And who would note the fragrant corruption of my poor elan, this Moorish bog, this poachy fen, who come from sea with salt and myrrh to burn my rotting flesh? I don't want to fail in grass that stabs my neck, this turkey foot as tall as life, no roses for my ghostly face, my face face down in chicory and culver's root. Get these nettles off of me, that milkweed from my mouth, your thistles, catnip, purple phlox, your funeral mint. You've never seen a mermaid in your livelong buckwheat life? I'd rather not allow it lie on land that's locked in your fetid ponds, this glacial runoff promised conch and bass. I'm innocent at poolside, foreign, standing, stagnant, pocket plash and lakey sump. You'll find me in your placid blue. I'll gnaw a hole, my teeth as long as lurid lurking coasts. Don't want to twist to Oz in funnel rage of shopping mall and trailer park. Your horizontal lightning, hailstone shelters dug beneath the earth, your warnings and your watches, trees uptorn, your vessels lost in scolding felon wind. I'd sooner die in outer space, unlucky astrogirl, balloonish, letting go to float in cyberspace or inner space, on Mars, in bars or cars at camp of cramps, in June, beneath the king of beers, the eagle on the Jersey Pike, beside the boy who pinched me hard and kissed me young as I was. I'd rather die where the ocean drowned me 13 times than spit me back to life. I'm so ungrateful. I really do. I have so many wonderful friends in Chicago. It's like, what is wrong with me? What was wrong with me? I still don't know. Oh, so here's one. Here's a good Chicago one. Kind of. Well, it's the only time I ever had a car accident was in Chicago because, it was ice everywhere. Of course, now it's like that here, but at the time I had never experienced anything like the snow and ice and cold in Chicago. This one's called Ice. We were driving down the Kennedy, having a great time guessing old groups, Spinners, Commodores, LaBelle. Maybe I was driving fast. We'd been cold for a month, not regular cold, scary, the kind that wears you down, 20, 40 below, dark, so cold, you know hell is scratchy wool and miles of hard ice. Forget heat, and everything suddenly stopped. The Lincoln, which was not our Lincoln, but my sister's boyfriend's Lincoln, not even his, but the least whim of a fired employee, crashed into the back of a steel gray Mercedes-Benz. You could feel the ice eat your bones, your bumpers, the plastic grill curling up the back of the Mercedes. Jesus, that Lincoln imploded. Good old American, the Mercedes owner said as we shook in the ridiculous cold, cars whizzing down the frozen highway, and Laurie's arm shot across my chest like a mother's. We'd been spoon sleeping on the sunny couch earlier while the temperature reached a record low in Chicago. My ex-husband used to say, "Stop breathing on my back, Maureen." The only thing I remember about the crash is the way Laurie's left arm reached out and saved me from ice crystals on the windshield. She said, whenever I breathe on her back, she melts. Thank you. So I also have like a trashing Florida poem, because that's where I moved next. I don't really trash, it's just, like it's all cloaked in this nice poem, but it's, basically I'm really unhappy unless I live in New York, so it's been many years of not living in New York. Just can't get back. Once you leave, you can't get back. That's the truth. Financially, it's done. So anyway, I'm really happy where I am now in Boulder, kind of. This one's called Fishtails. Look at her, all ocean. Behind a neighbor's sunken house, gills glistening. Is that a bluefish, flopping like something savage direct from swimming lessons at her feet? Crossed species aside, should we call someone? Is that a sealskin coat? A massacre of oysters on the half shell? Is beauty enough to ignore the fact she's not breathing? 2. She used to think the sea was omnipotent. She prayed to its depths, and sometimes she would float on a turquoise wave and imagine herself a pearl in the cup of its enormous palm. After the 4th hurricane, the one that pushed her Honda all the way to the Pussycat Boutique, she realized God was not in the sea, but in the wind, and that the wind was a freak. Yeah, right after I moved to South Florida, we had a lot of hurricanes. And after Wilma, which was after Katrina, which was after Rita, which was after Francis, speaking of Francis, I was like, why do people live here? I do not understand. So for those of you who may be thinking of going there, there hasn't been like a hurricane that hit Florida in a long time, so be careful. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. Maybe rent down there before you buy too. So this is New Yorkers in Miami. My partner's from Brooklyn. We've lived 90 feet from the beach for about 12 years, and we go swimming maybe once a year or something. New Yorkers in Miami. First, I'll make a stack of banana pancakes with bananas from our own banana tree. Then I'll ask you if a dip in the sea sounds good, because we live near the sea now. And when we get home, we'll make sandy love and lie like raisins with kelpie hair in our hammocks between gumbo limbo trees. Come on, let's go to the ocean. Look, it's right there. I can see it out the fucking window. And you look at me like you've been born a wise ass. My own special live-in wise ass, all set to wise ass me. People who live in Brooklyn don't go to Coney Island, you say. And people who live in wherever the Grand Canyon is don't go to the Grand Canyon either. And when you think about it, you add, getting caught up in your own riff as if you're Walt Whitman or someone alive good at making lists, all those people who live near mountains don't ski. What mountains, I ask, in mild debunk mode, though I agree in theory with your theory. Then our clothes come flying off and our flip-flops flip, and we're running wild together into the winter sea, goose-bumped and screaming like indisputable, almost Floridians. Nothing makes you feel guiltier than the ocean 90 feet from your house that you never go to. So think about that before you move to Florida as well. Let's see, where are we? We are. I think I'll read just a couple more. Since I do drive around a lot of my poems are about driving around a lot. So, and I love going the same route twice and kind of stopping for things along the way, you know, barbecue here, and I don't know, it's really fun. I love road trips and music, my music in the car. But this one has a little bit of a dark tone to it, and it's called Conspiracies, and the epigraph is $800 offered as reward for info leading to murdered lesbian couple's vehicle from the Lone Star Q in Texas. It's not funny. Maria, how do you solve a problem like you? Okay. Okay, get all the laughing out. No, it's funny. Actually, there are funny parts in it. Conspiracies. Lost in Dallas, I stopped and asked Texans how to head back home. The first time I asked a woman, the second time a man. Both were nice, both wrong, and eventually I found my way to Louisiana, where I was a fleur-de-lis on a Jeep Wrangler. Then I turned south, where I was smoked pork with potato salad. Then east across the Atchafalaya, where I was extinct, big woodpecker. Then I skirted the Gulf, where I paid a $4 billion fine, then tooled into Florida, where I was a panhandler. then headed south again, this time toward the Keys, where I might someday end up a Cat 4 or a polydactyl cat. All across the states, I'd gone straight, then right, then left, then right, then straight, then left, until I was coming off the turnpike near the sea, and I was a sniper, aiming at myself from the top of a royal palm. I was singing loud, a sound-breaking capsule splashing down at the Space Center. Damn, I thought, I should have stayed in Dallas, where I was lost but alive, where everywhere I went, I was a star. I'm going to work on not writing against places. Oh, I don't have to work on it. I have one with me. This is my last poem, and it's full of love for Boulder. But of course, I had just moved there, so I started writing some bad Boulder poems in the last few weeks. But when I first got there, I really felt connected to Ginsberg. And I know that this reading series is very connected to Ginsberg, and being here in this place is a Ginsberg energy. I don't know, I just love that. But his energy is also very present out in near Naropa and in Boulder. And also, I was going through a hard time. I told my workshop, going through all this cancer stuff. And there's a lot of Buddhists out there too. And although it's not something that I practice per se, it's really nice being surrounded by a lot of Buddhists. Wherever you go, like even if you just go take your grandson to the park, there's Buddhists like meditating, like there in the park. A bunch of them, not just one, there's a bunch of, and wherever you go, there's like this peaceful, it's very peaceful. It's a beautiful place to be. And I've been there almost a year, so by now I would have been like, what's wrong with Boulder? I know some things that are wrong, but they don't make me want to write poems, so I don't know what that's about. But when I first got there, Buddha, Ginsberg, Boulder, all kind of, and cancer, all kind of went together. So this is the poem that came out of it, and it will be my last poem for today, and I want to thank you all once again for having me here. I send you lots of love. Send me poems. It's called Boulder Sonnets with Buddha and Ginsberg. Some say sex is a product of light traveling at its own speed across the Rockies. Some that it occurs when the creek winds down to the pace of a Buddhist bicycling. My left breast is a fine specimen of genetic codes and misappropriation. I wobble asymmetric, right breast hold up like a nun in a monastery. It's true, I haven't had sex once since arriving in Boulder, I tell my friend Ginsberg, who's lighter than hydrogen, sparkly as a jukebox. The Buddha in my backyard places poppies on my disembodied breast. Sex, he says, is light blazing boldly before it blows itself out. Or sex is death traveling so fast it almost catches up with light. Ha, says Ginsberg. Ha, 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 ha. It's true. I haven't had sex in Boulder, but I have had summer. My right breast is the queen of breasts, my left an old lover. Ginsberg and I foxtrot around a field of sunflowers. We waltz through our own ghosts. Bright crayons scribble all over our minds. Cancer sleeps beside us, a lustrous marble, a trippy shoot. The Buddha in my backyard ignores both breasts equally, the living and the gone. Sex is a product of light, observing itself twinkle, he says. Twinkling.
We have a little bit of time. Any questions for Maureen? I can't see behind me.
No, it seems like they're all pretty satisfied.
Okay, nobody with a question? Okay, let's give her another round of applause.